Hello, welcome to optimization modeling using Excel. Yes, Excel has the capability to develop an optimization model where you actually get to make important decisions about maximizing or minimizing or developing a model that enables you to achieve a specific objective. Now, the problem we have here is for a refrigerator company. Basically what they do is they manufacture their refrigerators at two plants, one in Georgia and one in Minnesota. But however, they ship them through a major distribution centers that are spread out throughout the United States. And so one distribution center is in Cleveland, another one in Baltimore, another one in Chicago, and another in Phoenix. So information has actually been provided by various departments that includes accounting, production, and marketing departments. And they've provided information about the unit cost of shipping between these plants and distribution centers, and also provided information about the necessary demands and what capacity all these distribution centers have. So what you're required to do here is to use a linear optimization model function within Excel to find ways of minimizing the cost, right? So in other words, to figure out what quantities should be distributed through which distribution centers in order for us to keep the cost down, knowing that we have been given some costs for each particular distribution center, and of course based on which specific manufacturing plant those refrigerators will actually be coming from. So what we need to do here, first of all, before we activate the linear optimization model, we have to work out the numbers here. We want to make sure that when the numbers have actually been generated here, the totals will actually show up here. So we have to do just some housekeeping at those values. And by the way, this particular example is quite popular. It's a famous example that is always used for optimization because it's very, very practical, and many people can actually relate to a scenario like that where you manufacture your products at one particular location, and then of course you want to make sure that you can keep the cost down by deciding which distribution centers will be optimal, for the purpose of distributing those specific products. So now that we've actually done the totals here, the other thing we have to do here is to make sure that when the cost that we want to minimize is actually calculated, it's actually going to multiply these costs per unit by the quantities that will actually show up here. Okay, so now the most efficient way of multiplying these unit costs by whatever quantities that will show up here, it's a function called sum product. Okay, it's a very dynamic function within Excel that enables you to collectively take these unit costs, okay, and we want to make sure that they're absolutely a reference so that they do not change when we copy the formulas across. So in other words, we want to make sure that Marietta and Cleveland, if there's a quantity here, it's going to multiply, this value is going to be multiplied by that, okay. And also want to make sure that Cleveland, Minneapolis, if there's a quantity there, it's going to be multiplied automatically. So Excel is actually able to take all these values by cell, right, and ensure that they will all be collectively multiplied or applied to the quantities that will be generated here. Okay, so instead of us having to do one at a time, we can collectively just select the entire range, and the entire range will match up with the other range below that in order to come up with the sum or the total. Okay, let's see here. Let me make sure that looks like I deselected. Okay, want to make sure that we have this here, and we want to do absolute referencing. Okay, so for now, nothing shows up here because we don't have any quantities there. Now this is now the next step now where we have to go in and activate the linear optimization model. Now in order for you to do that, you have to go under data tab, and then here you should be able to see solver. If you don't see it, it means that you have not activated it. It's just like data analysis for other functions that needs to be added in. So it's actually an add in Excel, and it's very easy to bring it up. All you have to do is go to File, and then you go to Options. Under Options, you'll be able to see add-ins. You click on that, and then down here you'll see the Manage Excel add-ins function available for you. So you click on Go, and then it opens up this dialog box, and you should put a check mark on Solver add-in. That's why I have mine there. So once you've done that, you can say OK. Then now it's time to activate our Solver add-in. We can call it up now. It gives us a dialog box, and then it's asking us, what do we want to do? What is our objective? Our objective is to minimize cost, and we have to specify that we're minimizing here, right? So we specify in which cell the values are going to show up, and of course what we want with that particular cell is that we want to minimize cost. By doing what? By changing the quantities that are going to show up in here, the quantities that are actually going to be calculated. And then now in here now we are going to include constraints. We're going to build up some constraints because, okay, for example, if you say add constraint, now we want to make sure that the total that is going to be shipped here, right, should be less than or equal to the capacity in the distribution centers. Okay, so we select that. So that's actually going to be our constraint. So we cannot ship more than we have at the distribution centers. So we have to regulate that. So we add that. So another one is that here you can see here saying demand met. So we want to make sure that the demand that is being met here is equal to the demand at the distribution center. Those two must be equal. We have to meet the exact demand, right? Where, you know, from our customers. So once we've done that, we can go ahead and say, okay. All right. So far, just to sum this up, our objective is to minimize cost. And so we've specified that we are minimizing. And of course, we're going to minimize that by generating quantities that make sense for each distribution center, right? And it's going to be specific quantities for specific distribution centers, and some distribution centers may not make sense to distribute through them because they're too expensive, because our objective here is to minimize cost. So now that we've done everything, we can go ahead and say solve. And you can see here it's actually saying, do you want to save the results? You can see they've actually been generated and say yes, we want to do that. Now you can actually see that here it's telling us that for us to minimize the cost of our distribution, right, between our plants and distribution centers, Cleveland to Marietta, no, but Cleveland through Minneapolis makes sense. Baltimore and Marietta, yes. Baltimore and Minneapolis, no. And Chicago and Marietta, no. And but Chicago and Minneapolis does make sense. And they've actually given us all the quantities. And then Phoenix, of course, Phoenix and Marietta, because I mean they're fairly close to each other. So you can actually see it actually does make sense. And guess what? We've actually been able to ship out everything that's actually demanded by the customers. And it so happens that that also fulfills our capacity. And there you have it. You have actually been able to build an optimization model using Excel. What a cool way to make important decisions for a logistics company, where you really want to make sure that you're making good decisions by ensuring that you can at least minimize the cost, keep the cost down as much as possible. And every organization seems to struggle with that, doing more with less, making sure that we keep the cost down so that we can keep our profits up. Otherwise, that's all I have for you here, and I hope you find this very helpful, and hopefully it opened up a new chapter in your understanding of some of the hidden functions that's actually available in Excel that can really make a huge difference in your professional life. Thank you so much for watching, and again, if you like the video, please like it, distribute it, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. And again, any feedback I can get from this will be very helpful, so that I can continue to be of much better service to you. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.